Welcome to the Dream Team Tonic podcast. I'm your host, Chet James, as Tony is off watching his beloved Blackburn Rovers. Tonight, as usual, we have Ben. Are you there, Ben?
I'm here, mate. You okay?
Yeah, all good. And joining us for our transfer special, we have two special guests. Fergie, as usual. Are you there, mate?
I'm there, buddy. Thanks for having me on again.
No worries. And we've also got, last but definitely not least, Paul McNulty, a multidisciplinarian fantasy football guru. So we're going to kick off with some questions for Paul. So if anyone that doesn't know him, great to have you on, mate. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will know you from the Sky 3 for 1 pod that you do with Fergie. I believe you were just recording that before you came on air, actually.
We have done, yep.
Yeah. And you're flying high in Sky this year, I see, in first and third position, with Fergie right behind you in fourth.
Yeah. As Fergie likes to say, I've been lucky this season.
Lucky
heard,
bastard, I think is the word.
Ben did mention he said that on the last pod.
I feel like a bit of an imposter getting asked on here. I know that I do play multi formats, and Fergie and I do the other podcast, Nip and a Half, that covers off the addition of each of the points in each of the games and then compare the totals against one another. But you have got me on for my worst my worst format in play. So,
well, I'm sure your general football knowledge must be top notch. Doing so well in the other games. Can you tell us a bit more about the Nip and a Half pod you do? Because that does have some Dream Team in it.
Yeah, so Fergie and I have become good friends from doing the 3 for 1 pod, and I've met in person quite a few times now as well. We like a banter type approach, and I kind of got that friendship, that social working club type pub banter conversations outside of the podcasts that we do. And we often went on 15, 20 minutes prior to going on air for the 3 for 1 pod and talked about the other formats as well. So Telegraph, FPL and Dream Team, talked about how our teams did the previous week, what we're thinking about transfer-wise the following week. So when Fergie was up in Scotland, we chatted about potentially doing a banter-style podcast that was a look across multi-format, but keeping it quite low depth, but more high level, and thought that we could run with the totals from each of the games. Because we don't do captaincies in Dream Team and Telegraph, we had a look at overall points totals from previous seasons, what it took to win the game, and applied multipliers on two of the games as well, so that we could even out and kind of pro-rata the points, so that we're getting roughly a quarter of the points per game, adding up the totals. And then at the end of the season, the loser will pay for the winner to come to their home city whilst they wine and dine them for a day.
Oh, right. Who's in line for paying for the flights and dinners and stuff at the moment then?
Well, interestingly enough, I said that Dream Team is my worst game, but I'm absolutely destroying Fergie in it.
I'm sure Paul sets these up. He sets things up to say how bad he is at things, right? And then I've got to then come on after and say, oh, we know Paul said he's having a bad season. I'm having nervous when he does it on purpose. He sets it up, but yeah.
But there was a quote where we're talking about how would you rate your seasons in each of the games out of 10, and Fergie said for his Dream Team season, I think it was like 5 or something. I was like, you're calling your season a 5? I would say that I'm having a 5, and I'm 90 points ahead of you. So
loves it. Loves make me feel low of the low. But no, I think for context, about Christmas time or after the World Cup, you were about 140 points ahead of me, and now I think you're about between 35 and 40. So it's very, very tight now, and one swing can mean everything. So it's good. But yeah, I definitely don't want him in my house. I have to fly him down and go and wine and dine in. We'll be down the Labour Club and having a kebab, mate. I can assure you that. We won't be going out to any nice restaurants, anything like that.
Welcome to the pod, Paul. How did you get into fantasy football, and what was your first experience?
I played the old newspaper ones. I think it was like Shoot magazine, or it was like either that or Match. One of the old
Yeah.
old ones. And I used to play the Scottish Sun game as well for the Scottish Premier League. Albeit Henrik Larsson was like half your budget used up immediately when you brought him into the team, and then when Chris Boyd done really well at Rangers, that was another. It was almost like 20 million budget, and I think that the two players took up 17 million when you were picking them in together. But yeah, that was my first experience, was that, along with the Shooter Match magazine. Can't remember which, but back when Shearer was playing, possibly at his earlier days at Newcastle, just after he'd signed from Blackburn for, was it 15 million, I think it was at the time. So that was my first experience, although using the phone and dialing up with all the charges. After my mum seen the first couple of bills, I was relegated and minimum. I could do minimum transfers throughout the season, so didn't have much joy out of it. And then I really got into FPL, I think probably about 12 or 13 seasons ago. Played that, and I was playing poker one night live in person, and someone had said they'd set up a Sky League for the bowling club where I play poker, and that was my first season in Sky. I think that was about 10 or 11 seasons ago. The season when Meet Chu first on the scene was my first Sky season. And then in terms of Telegraph and Dream Team, I probably played those for about 5 or 6 seasons now each.
So, how many players could you pick from Rangers and Celtic in the Scottish one?
I don't know that there was a limit on how many Rangers or Celtic players were, but the fact that all of them were expensive, like at least double the price of any other teams. Say as soon as you picked Larsson, it was pretty difficult to make up a team. Stephen Hamill from Motherwell, I always had him in my team because he was always quite cheap and often got assists from left back.
Cool. How was your Dream Team season going this year?
Not. I'm just
Fergie.
With Fergie. I wouldn't say it's gone particularly well at all. I think I'm around about 4,000th. And yeah, I always seem to have a slow start, do really well at Christmas time, and then kind of plateaued. I wanted to keep up the momentum that I'd picked up over Christmas and started hammering into transfers early in the month, to knowing that I had to gamble, but with that comes the risk of picking up injuries and such like, as is done this month with Nathan Ake.
Yeah, there's been a lot of injuries this month. Any high finishes in Dream Team?
I finished in the top 100. I think it was a season you won it, Fergie. I think
it was,
finished in the top 100.
I was helping you. He was copying my team, just not closely enough.
Well, that was. I didn't put much effort into 10 team, like setting up a 10 teams this season. I did, but then after 1 or 2 weeks, I just focused on the team that I'd entered in a few leagues. But the season I did finish in the top 100 was one of the ones where I started off with a block defence. That block defence done really well in the first month, and then just picked up the momentum for there. I think my experience in Dream Team is it's really hard to make up ground because of the price changes are so vast. Like in other formats like Telegraph and Sky, there is no price changes, so you don't need to worry about that. FPL there is, but I feel that you get crushed more in Dream Team quicker. You have to react quicker, use your transfers up, and then even in the first month to try and make the price gains and not fall too far behind. And the swings are bigger than any other format, I would say.
How do you find the time and cope with playing multiple fantasy football games?
I've got a very, very understanding girlfriend because I've got a 10-month-old at home, and I've got a job which takes up a lot of time and a lot of thinking space as well. So what's been good for me in a sense, I gave up playing football. I played amateur football for almost 20 years. I gave up that about 3 or 4 years ago now, and even 5-a-sides and 7-a-sides, I was picking up small injuries and around 2 or 3 years ago, and I've given up that as well. So I've got a dog, so I take the dog out, and when I walk the dog, that's when I sit and look and do my transfer planner and thinking about it then. So yeah, a combination of having a really, really understanding partner and that's my main hobby outside of the work and such.
I can imagine.
Doesn't your household come to a standstill, Paul, an hour before the deadline each day?
So on like well, Sky's the main game that I play in, and
Yeah.
my main focus. And yeah, anyone that plays Sky will know that you get to make a captaincy change on a calendar day, and therefore there's a lot of thinking goes on the hour before the first kickoff of that day. And I've sometimes had to block out in our joint diary to say, look, I can't be talked to in that hour in case something drops on team news and I need to make like Man City's always the one when a Man City team sheet drops and there's something like left field or the player that I was going to captain is there or the transfer I was going to make and the player's not in there or the player that I own is in there. I have to rethink of a plan pretty quickly. So there's a period of an hour's grace before kickoff on a Saturday.
Yeah, I totally understand because I play Sky as well. It's a nightmare, especially when you're trying to do 10 teams in Dream Team.
Yeah, do you guys do 10 teams as well?
Yeah, I'm about down to 8 now, but a lot of people are down to like 4 or 5 teams now, aren't they? Yeah, they like throw away a few teams when you've got no chance of winning anything. But you still got like monthly prizes as well to be able to win in. You can win the PlayStation in Dream Team as well if you win the monthly. I think a couple of boys in our Discord are doing really well in the top 10 at the moment. Might win a PS5.
Oh, nice. I play draft and I play a few spreadsheet run games on the side as well. So I do have that on top of the 4 formats that I play. So managing the 10 teams and 5 in Telegraph, I think you're allowed.
Yeah.
So I had considered doing the monthly run with the 3rd team in Sky, but I knew that it would take up to. There's only so much bandwidth that I've got to think about.
So, Paul, first of all, can you explain the your team name? It seems to be named after a magazine.
It was named after Roy Walker. So remember, it was at Crosswits was the show that he did daytime TV, and he always got called the housewife's favourite. And someone called me at work one time, and then I was doing an Excel-based fantasy football league with work, and I needed to think of a team name, and I couldn't think of something witty, and it just came in reference that day, and I named it. And I'm quite happy now using the same team name, so I don't need to think about any seasons. I don't need to put a pun in there. So it's stuck, and I use it in every format as well.
Okay,
cool. Roy Walker was the inspiration.
And do you want to take us through your team and let us know if you've? Well, I was going to say let us know if you've got any transfer plans, but you might not want to tell us if with Fergie on the line as well. I don't.
He hasn't got any plans because he spunked all his transfers. Don't worry.
Well, this is the transfer special. Don't forget. So
for May.
Yeah. So I'll leave it up to you whether how much information you provide on your plans.
It's absolutely fine. I'm quite open with Sky. I don't do team reviews or anything like that, but I'm pretty open about like the moves that I'm going to make. And I always think that if people are interested enough to listen to podcasts that we're on and talk about it, then they deserve to get some insight. Although I don't know how much I'd provide from the Dream Team format. My team just now is De Gea in goals. I don't think that I'll be moving them on. I know that Man United's got a lot of fixture volume in May. They've got the cup final as well, which I expect them to play at the start. It's either at the end of May or start of June. I think it's the start of June. So I don't think I'll be moving him on. In defence, I've got Akanji, Ake and Diaz. I'll be likely moving Ake on unless he's back playing for City next week. I think I might just do an easy straight swap to Stones, start off the month. What I tend to do, and I do this in every format, is think about if I was going to do a wild card or an overhaul or whatever term that you want to use for the format you're playing, what would my team look like? And I often try and make transfers slowly, progressively, and a daisy chain type moves to get to that position. And I try and do the same with Dream Team as well, albeit it's a bit more difficult. So I think that would be my optimal team just now, would be De Gea in goals, and then I'll block City defence. So moving Ake onto Stones is something that I'll likely do with one of my first moves. In midfield just now, I've got Saka. So Arsenal's fixtures are really good, even though they don't have the fixture volume. It's one of those ones where I'd like to get Mahrez in, but I don't know that keeping Saka for a little while still might be sensible, and then perhaps making that move later on in the month. I don't want to be in a position like I was in this month where I've used all my transfers at the start, and any injuries or fixture gain opportunities come at the end of the month and I can't take advantage of those. I'm happy with my other three midfielders, so Bruno, De Bruyne, pending injury update on De Bruyne, but if he's back playing midweek or at the weekend, he'll be our mainstay for me. And then Grealish as well, who did really well for me as soon as I brought him into the team this month. Although I think Mahrez has kind of outscored him now, even though Grealish was pegging him to begin with. And then up front, I have Rashford, Haaland, and Kane. I think Salah or Kane for the third striker spot. They both got 4 games in May, so they don't have the extra fixture volume, but I'm pretty happy with one or the other, and I'm happy with Rashford as well. So, the one move that I'm looking to make at the start of next month would be Aki to Stones, maybe Saka to Mahrez as a potential second. The others I'm pretty happy to hold on to the end of the month. There's not, if I understand the rules correctly, there's not going to be a fixture drop, a transfer drop for June. So we're going to have the FA Cup final and the Champions League final. If City reach that, I'll be there as well. So I'd be looking to keep a couple of transfers back so that I could get the extra fixtures at the end of the month as well. So 1.5 transfers pending for the start of the month.
Cool. Thanks for that. We're going to move straight into the listener questions because Paul might have to leave the pod slightly early. And we'll do the other team updates at the end. First question up is Connor. What is the one thing you can take away from this season to help you improve your ranks next season? P.S. I also want to take an opportunity to thank Fergie and Paul for the 3-for-1 podcast. It's my first season playing Sky, and listening to their pod every week has really helped me get to grips with it. I have a current rank of 1.1k and 7 transfers left, so I'm buzzing with that. Couldn't have done it without the pair of them. So thanks, guys.
Well played, Connor. Hell of a season. Hell of a first season.
So what do you think, Fergie? Any takeaways from this season that you'll be implementing next year to sort of improve
I think
things?
It's obviously easy in hindsight, but the defence this year is just it killed my season. In previous seasons, Chelsea defence, as a prime example, Liverpool defence, Man City defence, they've always been really, really strong. But I think I was probably a bit slow to react to the Newcastle and Arsenal sort of bandwagon. And I've done it before in the Mahrez and Vardy season. I didn't own them in either format all season because I was just convinced they can't keep it going. I very much I am like a data person, but I'm also a big believer in like regression in terms of things will go back to as they were. And I think the whole dynamic of the Premier League has changed quite a lot since COVID in terms of the kind of managers we're getting in now, in terms of the quality of some of the strikers who take away a lot of the clean sheets with an odd goal, in terms of the way that some of the teams are playing, not understanding how much, just for example, losing Mane would affect Liverpool and things. So I think for me, my key learning is probably learning to react a little bit better to a change in trend rather than just go with what I kind of think is set in stone every year, and it will happen. So I think that's mine.
Yeah, I'm quite similar to that in that sort of thought process in many ways. I remember Yara not getting on Yaya Toure one year because I thought he's never going to keep this up.
And Ramsey, wasn't it? That was the season when him and Aaron Ramsey from Arsenal was popping him in every week as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Double pivot, like everyone's saying, suggesting that the double pivot, the person in advancing the double pivot shouldn't be returning as
exactly.
As they were.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ben? Have you anything you're going to take away from this season into next?
Definitely concentrate more on building budget at the start of the season. And I have to credit Aman, the money man, this season. He got his budget up to like 60 million dead quick. And he could basically pick whoever he wanted as we got further into November. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to look at more next season, because it'll definitely help when you want to say if the big hitters do get off to a flyer, you want to get as many of them in as you can, because you always start off with if it starts the way, if the pricing is the same next season, you'll have to start off with your Sessegnols and players like that again at the start of the season. So I want to get off them as quickly as possible. I don't want to hold on to them as long as I did this year.
Yeah, Aman seemed to start with quite a few sort of mid-price players, didn't he? In order to achieve this budget, incredible budget that he ended up with. Perhaps we'll have to get him on the pod to explain his methods in detail. So that's an interesting one, Ben.
Yeah, definitely.
Paul, anything that you're going to take into next season from this one?
I always look at the League Cup fixtures at the start of the season, and always to my detriment in the Dream Team. So I'm going to try and avoid looking at that and messing around with one or two transfers there, and instead, try and move on to players that I know that I'm going to be holding for a few months, like for 2 or 3 months, that I've done well the previous week. So both to help build up the budget, but also longer term planning, and try and avoid that. Both seasons, players that I've expected to play in the League Cup for kind of lesser teams and in that kind of 2 to 2.5 million price point in midfield, have ended up not playing the League Cup. I think Traore was one couple like last season, the season before. Expected him to do well, and I think Ward-Prowse maybe this season or last season as well. So a trap that I feel that I always fall into, and I'm going to try and avoid.
Okay, cool. Up next, we've got Dream Team Patrick. From now until the end of the season, what is the template team, in your opinions, that is money no object? I think he just means what if you had an unlimited budget, who would you go for? Ben?
So I've gone for a City back three with a City goalkeeper: Ederson, Akanji, Stones, and Diaz. Midfield: Mahrez, KDB, Grealish, and Bruno Fernandes. And then up front, I've got Alvarez, Haaland, and Rashford.
Cool. Fergie, any differences to that one? I imagine we're all going to be fairly similar.
Yeah, I do like that. Again, I mentioned them last week. I mentioned them in the last pod, and a few of their players have actually done pretty well. I do think West Ham could still have a say. So they've got the extra European fixtures, and they also got home to Leeds straight after on Saturday the 20th. So they've got a 4-for-2 over a lot of teams apart from City, including Leeds at home.
Yeah.
So I still do think there are players. Antonio at the moment, for example, seems to be playing really well. Bowen, Paqueta, and players like that. Even the defence, I think they've kept a couple of clean sheets in April as well. So they're the only ones I would add in as a bit of a potential sprinkling of difference there. But it is obviously very, very hard to look past Man City due to the quality of their team and their volume of fixtures.
Yeah. Paul, anyone that we've not mentioned that you'd have your eye on for that perfect team from now until the end of the season?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think for Alvarez, he might be one that when you've got the extra games towards the end, so you've got the FA Cup final and you've got the potential Champions League final for City, that I'd be quite happy holding Kane and or Salah up until then, and maybe that's a transfer that you want to keep back to use at that time. But everything, I also think De Gea's probably fine for that period. I don't know if Ederson will play the FA Cup final, so you'd get one game from each in June, and Man United's runs coming up is pretty good as well. So maybe De Gea over Ederson, but I think you can kind of throw a sheet over the two.
Yeah, the reason I went for Alvarez is because after Pep's comments of saying that he's got to somehow fit Alvarez in the team from now on with KDB and Haaland. So with like Man City playing double game week all the way through May, I'm just thinking,
He's going to get a lot of minutes. Isn't
yeah, because Man City could have 9 games if they get to the Champions League final,
Wow.
and Liverpool and Spurs will only have 4 games. And usually I would go De Gea, but Man United's only got 6 games to Man City's guaranteed 8. So even if you take the FA Cup final out, that's 7. So it's still 1 more extra, and possible with the Champions League, that's 2 more extra. So that's the only reason I've gone Ederson this month. Normally I go De Gea, but Ederson doesn't seem to get the ratings, does he either? Because he doesn't have to do anything in Dream Team.
Well, the only thing he does is pick the ball out of the net once
Yeah.
every game, doesn't he?
I know. 1 chance, 1 goal.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's why I went for them. What about you, James?
Sorry, I was thinking about the next question. So,
Crack on, mate.
so I think we've covered Walmart Statham's first question. Did anyone get a chance to look at the score outputs from Saka versus who had less fixture volume to the likes of Grealish or Mahrez?
Yeah, I had a look at it.
Okay, so I'll read out the question then. I see from Walmart Statham, I see quite a few of the top players disregarded fixture volume and left Saka in. I would be interested to see how he scored versus the most likely replacements of Grealish and Mahrez through April. What were your findings, Ben?
So looking at the points scored for last month, Saka got 9 points overall. He got a 2, a -3, a 10, and a blank. Then Grealish got 33 points. He had a 15 at the start of the month, and then it was 3, 3, 3, 5, 2, 2. So steady, but with a nice big one at the start. And then Mahrez, he had a blank, then didn't play, blank, didn't play, 28, blank, and then a 5 at the weekend. So he's on 33 as well. So he matched Grealish just through getting that hat trick in the one game.
Run us through the totals then for each of those 3 players.
So Mahrez 33, Grealish 33, Saka 9.
Right.
Saka had 4 games, and Grealish had 7, and Mahrez played 5 games.
It felt like in March. It felt like in March that Arsenal and Man United were popular. They had a lot of fixtures. Man United they were both still in Europe at that point, and had extra fixtures in the league as well. So what I think might have happened at the start of April is that a lot of transfers were used because they knew that the fixture volumes no longer sat with Arsenal and Man United, and instead sat with City, and I think Liverpool had extra fixtures this month as well. So it could be that a lot of transfers were used at the start of the month, and then popular players like Ake and Rashford both got injured as well. So transfers were again used there, and it could be a case of people just running out of transfers at that point.
I mean, you don't mind having Saka in your team because he's like the best player of Arsenal, isn't he? So, and he's on penalties. Yeah. So you if he's not like a must sell if you've got injuries in your team.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Cool. Dream Team Patrick's up with another question. Speaking with the lads on Discord, the common wisdom seems to be lumping on City players as the best team and because they have the best team and the best fixtures. Is that the plan for you guys? And if so, if not, why not? Fergie, any comments on that one?
Yeah, I think it is the plan. I think it's sadly the way it's panned out with only really Man City remaining in Europe of any real viable option. I know I mentioned West Ham, but they're the best team. They've got the best players. They've got the most fixtures. you can, and their team is actually affordable. I'm not sure how much Alvarez is, but I think you can more or less get an 11, their whole 11 almost. It's reasonably affordable, and I just think if you don't do that, I find it impossible to believe that you'll finish the season well. And sadly for me, that's the way that Dream Team is finishing this season. In other seasons, there've been other teams in other European finals. We had Man City, Chelsea, and Man United all in finals a couple of seasons ago, and you had that diversity. But the way it's landed, a full Man City 11 is just the most optimal way to play in my opinion, and anything else would be going different for different's sake. As sad as an answer as that is, it's the state of the game in my opinion.
Anything to add on that one, Paul?
Not really. And since Ben was talking about the players earlier on, I've written down Alvarez and Ederson, so that's my notes taken away from this pod already.
That's going to cost me a trip to bloody Glasgow. To Edinburgh, mind. You know that, Ben, don't you?
Sorry, mate.
Cool. So, I think the second part of the question is, if yes, who outside of Haaland and KDB do you deem essential? I think does anyone agree that the answer is pretty much the rest of the team?
I think so. There's not many decision points. I just saw actually Nathan Ake looks like he might be back in training. So that could be an interesting one. But you potentially got, would you go for someone like Gundogan maybe, or Mahrez? He scored the 33 points. Obviously there was a hat trick in there. Other than that, he didn't. He barely played by the sound of it. Foden's back as well. So I suppose the only ones is who do you actually go for? But yeah, I think probably De Bruyne, Grealish are probably the ones I'd say are maybe bankers for the midfield. Obviously Haaland, Alvarez is a bit of a punt, but you definitely get minutes. The defence, the back four is reasonably solid now. Obviously Ederson. So there's like that whole Gundogan versus Mahrez versus, even like Bernardo Silva, or something like that potentially. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. Anything to add on that one, Ben?
No, pretty much covered it. Just like how Rodri is a steady player in Sky. He gets you 5 points a week. That's what Grealish is like in Dream Team for me.
Yeah.
He gets the odd assist. Doesn't really score, but when he does, he'll get 15 points.
It's his take-ons, isn't it, I think? I remember Rashford was a couple of seasons ago, even though he was playing awful, he rated every week because he used to get a couple of take-ons, and it's really highly ranked in Dream Team, isn't it?
That's like Traore was like the only
That's it, Adama was a bit...
you would ever buy him, and was like, I remember like Wolves were getting beat every week and we weren't scoring, and Traore was picking up Star Man,
yeah, he was.
Yeah. Okay, well let's move on from that one. Got a question from Matt Woolley, who's been a previous guest on the pod and had a cracking season last year. He says, really looking forward to the mashup of my two favourite podcasts. And the question is, how long would you hold Liverpool assets, including Salah, as their fixture glut dries up? Paul, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm in the same. I'm not in the same position, but I've got Kane, and Kane's got the same volume fixtures as Salah as well. So I'm in a similar position to them. And I hadn't really considered Alvarez, and I know that if he's going to get more minutes, and if he does play against Leeds, and maybe that is an opportune time to move on to him. I always thought Kane was a better Dream Team asset than Salah because of his chances created and such like that. He always seems to get rated. Whereas Salah can be a bit more hit or miss if he doesn't seem to put any, if he doesn't score or assist, he doesn't see rating as much. So on Salah, I think that I would look for a convenient time to perhaps move on to Alvarez, but if there's not and he doesn't start, I think with City, they do play on a few Saturdays as well, so you might see if Alvarez is starting, and that's a good opportunity particularly next week when they're at home to Leeds on.
You get to see the lineups this week. So City are home to Leeds at 3:00. Spurs on at the same time, and Liverpool play later. So if Alvarez starts, you can make the move safe in the knowledge, sort of thing.
Yeah, so that's a good opportunity there. I think on Trent, like Liverpool just looks so bad defensively, and yes, he's picking up more assists in that new role. I think it's 5 assists in 4 games now. But is that enough to warrant the outlay and the fixture volume? I still maintain that City will start keeping clean sheets as well. Maybe the 2 games.
Regression.
Yeah. Well, on Liverpool's side, I can't see it, and it's just because the parting in the middle of the pitch. Whereas, yeah, you've got to think that City's going to pick up some clean sheets over that time. I think I'll be moving on Trent pretty quickly.
I'm inclined to agree. It's interesting. Both City and Liverpool seem to be playing with these inverted fullbacks, and it's great if it works. But I think the whole team has to be perfect in order for it to come off. And if it only takes one mistake, particularly for Liverpool, a ball in behind, and Trent's gone up, and then the other players are not covering adequately. It's almost a certain goal, unless everyone's totally on it. City, to a lesser degree, I think, they're also playing that system with John Stones, but I think they've got it nailed down a bit more. So I think that's probably why we're seeing less clean sheets from those two. But it's an interesting one. I'm wondering if that will continue. But you would think City would start picking up clean sheets at some point, surely. But we'll see.
Even their XGC on the weekend in the game they conceded is something like 0.1.
Yeah.
It's just the same every game, but this is my downfall. Is I believe in the data, and I believe they will keep clean sheets. I believe they will tighten up now. They'll just look to see out games, and stuff, and do it. But yeah.
Anything to add on that one, Ben?
No, not really. I think you covered it pretty well. Just basically, it just depends on if you've got other fires to put out in your team. If you don't, then you could target Man City straight away. But because if you look at it, it's like a 8-4 or a 9-4 if they get to the Champions League final. If you're hoping for them to get Champions League final, so you could gain there if you're chasing. But if you're not chasing, you can maybe hold your transfers for another week in case of injuries, because it's going to be 6 game weeks this month, because it goes all the way through to June the 10th if the Champions League final is included.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've covered the second half of that question. So moving on to Wadey, similar question. For Trent owners, hold or keep. Most brought him in thinking he would get some good returns against poor sides like Forest, yet they are awful at defending. What are your thoughts? Fergie, any thoughts on that one that we haven't already covered?
Yeah, no, I would. I think I get rid. Looking at, I think they conceded against Brentford. Away to Leicester, a bit of a tougher one. I think they'll concede against Villa as well. Just think there's better options. Man City, more fixtures, more chance of clean sheet. As good as Trent is, even if he gets his assist every week, which he won't, if he's conceding every week, it's just not enough for me personally. So that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, Dream Team does punish you a lot harder for conceding goals than other formats, doesn't it? So in something like FPL, Trent can concede 3 goals and still end up with 4 or 5 points for just 1 assist. Yeah. So it is tough in Dream Team in that respect. Cool. Anyone else got anything to add on that one before I move on?
I think Liverpool had that patch of 4 home games in 5, and everyone thought they seem to be picking up results at Anfield this season. And I think it was for that spell in particular they were looking for it. So it does seem like a good time to move on.
Yeah. No, as a Liverpool fan, I would agree, particularly defensively. They're just a shambles. But luckily, Fergie, Spurs are probably more of a shambles.
Oh, are you sure about that? They conceded eight goals in what was it, 25 minutes, and was it 15 minutes last night? Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, and you know what? I was driving last night when I saw the Richarlison equaliser come in, and it came up as just a notification on my screen in my car, and I was buzzing. I thought, "Oh, come on!" And I was fiddling to find the radio because I just left my house, and I put it on, and just as I turned it on, it was yeah. I'm thinking, "Oh, there it is. That's the remnants of the Richarlison goal." Oh, Jota! And what an absolute signal that was. Unbelievable.
Yeah, what a crazy game that was. Yeah.
It was.
Moving on, question from Lee Hooper. I'm thinking many may go hard on City from the get-go with new transfers. Things are getting tight in the top of some of my mini leagues. I'm thinking it might be prudent to keep transfers back and observe others using and having a look at what they do to give me more flexibility and the ability to maneuver with potential injuries, rotation towards the end of the season. Ben, any thoughts on that one? You muted.
Sorry, the mic just come down there. It's definitely a good idea to do that and see what your rivals do. Obviously, I would still make a couple of transfers if you're wanting to hold some back. But yeah, try and keep 2 or 3 back for later on, and then you can make transfers when maybe your rival might make 5 next month straight away, so you can gain advantage. And obviously, like you said, watch out for injuries and suspensions.
Okay. Paul, anything to add on that one?
No, but I do think that, I guess the counter argument is if you're going hard on City to begin with, then it's them that's got the fixtures at the end.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest, like I'd said, one of my lessons learned is not using all the transfers at the start of the month for next season. But certainly, if you're moving off players and bringing in City, I wouldn't hold back on 1 or 2 moves there, knowing that those guys are going to get the fixtures at the end.
I'd also just add, just for example, on the Alvarez move, if he starts against Leeds, that could be an absolute bloodbath, and you don't want to miss out on a couple of goals there. Just trying to be a bit conservative. So I would, there's a fine balance, but I would look to bring in the high upside players, and maybe not bring in maybe the lower ones. I suppose is the only thing I would add on to that. Like Alvarez is a very high upside player if he plays against Leeds, whereas someone like, I don't know, Akanji is.
Yeah, it's not going to kill your season if you miss out on a Akanji in the first couple of weeks, right?
Whereas Alvarez, I'm not sure on Alvarez's ownership, but I'm assuming it's low, probably sub 5%. I'm guessing.
He's 3.5% owned, which is nothing.
What a differential that would be to absolutely fly up the rankings as well if if it comes off.
Yeah, I like that. I like that way of thinking, and sometimes you forget about that. Well, I know I do, and those high upside players, they're the ones that are the game changers. Yeah. Okay. As Bestos has been on. Pick 5 differentials for the running who don't play for City, United, West Ham, or Brighton. I'm not sure why you'd want to, but he's asked the question. Only joking, Baz. What do you think, Paul? Any picks outside of those 7 teams?
I don't know that I'd be going for any of these players, but if you're looking for a high upside based on, I guess, the relative ease of the fixtures as well, I've got Martinelli, Jesus, Wilson, Isak, And I had Saka down. I don't know that Saka classes as a differential, though I imagine his ownership's quite high, but he was a player that wasn't mentioned from those teams. I do think, and again, these aren't differentials, but I do think that Kane and Salah are the two alternatives, because there does seem to be a pool of 5 or 6 players that you could fit into the 3 slots. And we know that all of those players could get braces in 2 or 3 of the 4 fixtures that they've got as well. So
Okay.
I feel there's more variety. I feel there's more variety in the forward spots and options than there is in the midfield spaces.
Yeah, I agree. Fergie, any differentials to add to that list?
No, I went through this question with Paul before we started recording, and I gave him a couple of those, so I'll just take a bit of credit for them. But
he said Wilson.
Other than that, I was just going to say West Ham or Brighton, but I've noticed they are in the list of avoids. So I can't think of anyone else. And I think, to just re-emphasise Paul's point, if you are going outside, then I think you're really risking your rank, to be honest, unless you're absolutely desperate. I do think Wilson and Isaac, I do think they could be decent picks towards the end of the season. But I think other than that, there's just so much point potential elsewhere. I just wouldn't bother.
Yeah. Ben, have you got any differential picks?
Yeah, well, I've got Diaz if he plays. For Liverpool. Luis Diaz. So he's hardly played this season. He's got 2 star mans, 5 goals and 3 assists. He scored at the weekend, didn't he? He's only 12%. I think Harry Kane will become a differential, because everyone will be moving off Harry Kane, probably going to either to Salah or to Alvarez. He's 31% at the moment overall, and he's got 27 goals this year, 6 assists and 7 star mans. I heard you just say Wilson. Yeah, he was on my list. Isaac as well, but they're getting rotated, aren't they? But they're getting minutes in every game, so the scoring goals are fun.
I think they're both also injury prone, and there's a point towards the end of the season where if one of them does get injured, the other one is going to have a free run on some really good fixtures. So I just think it's worth waiting a little bit on that one.
Yeah, they've got an extra game next month as well. They've got 5 fixtures. And Son, I've got down as well. He's 12%. It's 4 star mans, 14 goals this year, and he's had a bad season. And 5 assists. So, yeah, he could be one for the end of the season if you wanted something different.
No Maddison in your list, Ben, I note.
No.
He starts this evening, by the way, for anyone, any Sky players.
I still have to decide if I'm putting him in as my captain yet.
We're in my hour zone here.
Okay, we've got a couple of teams to look at now for the final 2 questions. So FPL Now Then Young Man has asked us. He has said he's 57 points off the front of the his mini league rival, who has Martinelli and Edison as main differentials. He's got 1 transfer left this month. What would you do with that transfer? And I'll read. Whilst you're having a think about that, I will read out his team. If I can find it. So he's got De Gea in goal, Akanji, Dalot, Zinchenko. In midfield, Mahrez, De Bruyne, Grealish, Fernandes, and up front, Haaland, Rashford, and Salah. Fergie, what would you do if you had a final transfer left to use before the rollover on Friday morning?
I would take out Zinchenko for a City defender.
Yeah. Ben, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's what I had down. I've got Stones down for Zinchenko, if you can afford that.
Yeah. Paul, any differing thoughts on that one?
Zinchenko Stones is exactly what I had written down when I seen the question prior to coming on.
So I think that's a resounding no-brainer there. Zinchenko to Stones. FPL Daniel, his current side is ranked 170th. What is the best way to try and climb rankings? Any players in this team that need to go? Best teams to target? Use transfers early or hold? Use this month early to get in as many City players as possible. And he's saying he's now blocked getting Liverpool players. I'm not sure about the last part of the question, but I'm going to read out his team for the listeners. He's got De Gea in goal, Stones, Trippier, and Diaz. In midfield, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Grealish, and Saka, and up front, Rashford, Kane, and Haaland. Ben, what would you recommend?
Well, if you want to try and get as high as possible, just go for it and go pretty much all City. So, like say, I'd probably go Kane to Alvarez with your new transfers. If Alvarez starts, I'm saying at the weekend against Leeds, Saka out for a Man City midfielder, probably Mahrez. Trippier to another Man City defender. Just keep De Gea for now.
He's not far off the. I suppose the aim there is to get into that elusive top 100, isn't it? So those high upside players are probably the ones to go for. Fergie, anything to add on those?
Just once I get rid of Trippier, Saka, and Kane, maybe Alvarez, Mahrez.
Yeah,
trying to be boring, but it's just so obvious.
Yeah. And Paul, what do you think? Same as Fergie?
I don't know that I would get rid of Trippier just now. I'd maybe hold the transfer back. Newcastle do have 5 games, which is less than City's, but in City's run they have, whilst they are probably the best defensive team in the Premier League, notwithstanding clean sheets and stuff this season, when they're in full flow, they're probably the best defensive team. But they do play Real Madrid twice in that area tour, one of Europeans' best attacking teams as well.
Yeah, Paul's had to shoot off, but thanks for Paul for coming on. So now we're going to go through the remaining team updates. How are you getting on this week, Fergie? And any plans for the new transfers that are coming on Friday?
Yeah, this week. Sorry, to get my team. I can't see how many points I scored this week. I've done okay. I don't tend to look at points. I just look at my rank all the time. But I think last time I was on, I was hovering around like 20k, 25k. Bear in mind, I was 340k at World Cup. I'm 10.5k now, so I've had a pretty good month. Got De Gea and Shaw at the back. Obviously, they kept the clean sheets on the weekend. Probably unexpectedly, I think, against who did they keep it against? I can't remember who kept it against now. Villa.
Aston Villa.
But I wasn't really expecting that, but I held on to him. I've got Stones and I've got a Kanji. Stones got 3 points, even though they conceded again. I've got De Bruyne. I had Mahrez, which was, as Ben said, I think I said it last year with Mahrez, didn't I? He can get a hat trick. He's one of those players who can change a season in an instant, and he's really done that. I think he rose me from like 18k to about 12k with that one performance. So I really like holding Mahrez. I've got Bruno and I've got Bowen, he's ticked along all right. He's I haven't got his scores in front of me. Let's have a quick look if I can see them. He's got 134 for the season, but I know he's had like a couple of assists recently, and I think he scored a few weeks ago as well. So while not being probably as explosive as I wanted from him, given in mind the extra European games, he's ticked along okay. But I think he's probably scored more than Saka this month, who I took him out for. So I'm quite happy with that. And then up front, Rashford, Haaland, and Salah. So I know some people took out Rashford when he was injured, wasn't it? Which was hard luck, really. I was really and ahhing, and then you got that word that he might be all right and stuff. And Rashford is the kind of player with the end of the season in sight. You don't want to waste 2 transfers, take him out and bring him in. So I decided to leave him in, thankfully. And the same for Shaw, actually, because he had a knock as well, didn't he? So, overall, 10.5k. Looking at my team going into next month, after we've chatted obviously this afternoon, I think if Alvarez starts, I think Salah to Alvarez is probably something I'll do. I know Liverpool are home to Brentford, and Liverpool are pretty good at home, but I think the upside for Alvarez in that Leeds game and for the rest of the month is just massive. It also frees up money, so I've got 0.0 in the bank. So I'm not sure how much Alvarez is actually, but I'm assuming that'll free me up like probably 4 or 5 million, I'm guessing, which will help. I'm tempted to leave in Bowen. I'm not sure. I do like those AZ games. I'm not really sure, but I do want Grealish because I haven't got Grealish, and he's such a steady returner. So Bowen to Grealish is a potential. And then after that, I don't know. I think I'm tempted to kind of leave it maybe because I have got 4 United players who've obviously got all those. Actually, they haven't got all those fixtures, have they? What am I talking about? They haven't got all.
They've got
those
6
fixtures. They've gone
fixtures.
towards the end. Yeah, they've gone towards the end, haven't they? So, I'll probably move a United or player onto another, but I definitely want to leave a couple of transfers back as well because I don't want to go into the end of the season with 2 or 3 injuries with all those fixtures still to play. So that's why, I'm even though Paul rated his own team 5 out of 10 at being 4k overall, I think my recovery from 340k to on the brink of 10k is I'm really, really happy with that actually because and I'm just disappointed. I think I played the second half of the season really well, but my first half of the season was absolutely awful, and it's eventually cost me. So, but that's my team and plans, and hoping to keep on, have a strong finish, and maybe even finish, in between like 5 and 10k, which would be a hell of an achievement for where I was, I think.
Alvarez is 3.9 million.
So I'll save like over 5 million. Pretty good saving.
We're not going to go through Tony's team this week, but he is still riding high in 35th place as we speak. So he's having a great season. We're all cheering him on and hoping he can get back into that into the upper echelons. Ben, how are you getting on this week? And any plans for the start of May?
This team is now 4.2k. Got 34 points this week. 2,185 points. De Gea got 5. Alexander-Arnold, Kanji got nothing, and Wan-Bissaka didn't play. Bruno Fernandes got 8, a goal. Bowen nothing. De Bruyne did not play. Mahrez 5 for an assist. Rashford nothing. Salah and Haaland got 8 points each. Like I was saying, Salah possibly to Alvarez if he starts against Leeds. Like I said, it's possible 8 for 4, or it's a possible 9 for 4. I was a bit funny about Alvarez last month because he was getting rotated a lot, but after Pep's comments at the weekend, he's saying he wants to get him in the team somehow. It's really interesting me in him now. I was thinking about him anyway for the end of the season when Premier League finishes and Man City will have the FA Cup final and the Champions League final, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So he would definitely be one of my transfers at some point. I've got Bowen there. So Bowen I'm just going to keep for another week, I think. De Bruyne and Mahrez keep. I'm happy with the midfield. Fernandes, I could move him on to Grealish, but Bruno's doing all right. I'll keep him in. He's still got extra fixtures at the end of the month. 6 games for United. Trent is one I'm probably going to look at moving out. He's getting assists every game, isn't he? But if they concede, then it like knocks his rating. So it's one of them. Are you better off getting 2 bites of the cherry every week with a Man City defender and possible clean sheets? More chance of clean sheets anyway. But I could hold for another week, or I could jump on Man City and attack that. Wan-Bissaka is a bit frustrating. I think it was just a rotation thing, giving Malacia a game, but United have only got 2 singles for the next 2 game weeks, so that's another possible jump off to a City player. And then De Gea, I'm not really that fussed about changing my goal at this point in the season. If I had more transfers, I'd bring Ederson in, but 5 transfers, I'm probably going to stay with De Gea now for the rest of the season. Yeah.
Cool.
What about you,
Did,
James?
well, have you noticed, Ben, that I am 3 points behind you in my pod team?
Right.
But I'm much better set up for the next month than you are.
Yeah, because you have more transfers, don't you?
And
I'm
I've
out.
still got 1 transfer left. So my current team is De Gea in goal, Stones, Walker, who's probably who was a temporary fix for Ake, Akanji. So I've got 3. I've got 3 City in my back line already. Matoma, Fernandes, Mahrez, and De Bruyne, and Rashford, Haaland, and Kane up front. So that last transfer this month I've got is probably going to be Matoma to Grealish, I think. I don't like. I mean, the trouble is Brighton are looking like they're going to score hatfuls every game, but I
Apart
don't
from
like
against
the
Forest.
look at their fixtures as much. Hey?
Apart from against Forest when we needed them to.
Yeah, well, the Forest were lucky there, weren't they? Because they caught Brighton at the right time off the back of that of the semi-final, and they were knackered. So yeah, lucky for Forest that. Not so lucky for Leicester by the sounds of it.
They're a different team at home, aren't they? Forest to away.
Yeah, they certainly are.
It's got the 12th man there.
Yeah.
1 win away all season, isn't it? I think they've managed. So yeah, I'm thinking probably Matoma to Grealish to get that 3 City in midfield. I'll probably leave Fernandes in there for now, and that's the. I do like I'm coming around to this Alvarez idea myself. I have to say, if I see that he's starting at the weekend, and I don't know, it could with Kane only having a few fixtures left. It might be an option, but the trouble is he's such a star man magnet.
Yeah, nice fixture at the weekend as well.
Yeah.
Palace at home. It's we haven't covered Brighton on the pod so far. Looking at their fixtures, they've got 6 games next month, but it's a single against Everton at home. If I have Brighton already, I possibly will be holding them for that game, and then you've got a double game week after that.
True.
I know there's tough double game week, Arsenal away, Newcastle away, but they seem to do better against the better teams. If you look at their record this year, they've lost points against Leicester, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, but then they go and beat Chelsea, Liverpool, teams like that. So I think they beat Man U as well, haven't they? So it's interesting one. So it'd be a nice differential as well, I think, if you could keep hold of Mitoma.
Yeah. So if I heard, I mean, it'd be a risky maneuver. When I put Walker in, it was only as a temporary measure because I don't really rate him necessarily as a. But what would I want to use that last transfer to switch back to Ake if I got positive news? It's bringing a player back in that's just coming back from injury is always a risk, isn't it? Because they might break down again. So I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. I don't like burning a transfer, but that is an option. I'll have to give that some more thought.
Maybe the goalkeeper could go.
Well,
go to Ederson.
To who though? Because I can't afford Ederson. So...
you can't afford Ederson from De Gea. No. Okay.
Yeah.
That's tricky then.
I don't think
it's very tricky.
In this team. Yeah. So yeah, I mean Ederson would be an obvious choice, not to waste the transfer. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Foden comes back and has a storming end to the season as well. I mean, he is in the mix, isn't he? We know what he can do. He's showing glimpses of it when he came back, and then he got injured again. So he is one to watch, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah, and Bernardo Silva gets all the big matches, doesn't he, as well? He'll be playing against Madrid, I would imagine, instead of
Yeah.
Mahrez. Mahrez will get the easier fixtures, which is okay for me if he misses the Champions League games, because he's quite prolific anyway when he plays.
Yeah.
So even if he doesn't have the same amount of games as the other players, he's still got a good chance of scoring a goal or two.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. We're just going to wrap up. We're not going to do the normal league table updates. We're just going to, for a change, we're going to run through the overall top 10 leaderboard. So in 10th, we've got Harry Carr. In 9th, Andrew Foote. We've got Chris Hall in 8th and 7th. In 6th, we've got Martin Powell. 5th, Simon Davis, Nags Head Rovers, friend of the pod. 5th is Mark Akrasa. 3rd is Bodo Wagner. And 2nd, we've got Carl Watts. And at the top, we've got Andrew Cadman. I know you asked me to put this in, Ben. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just coming to the end of the season now, and I thought it'd be nice to give a shout out to the lads at the top, or the lads and ladies, whoever's at the top of the leaderboard. Yeah.
Are they all in contention? There's quite a so can 10th still make first? I think there's probably a too big a gap there.
80
I think,
points, 80 points there. So
yeah. So there's right at the top. I would say that obviously you've got a 30-point gap between 2nd and 3rd, or 29 points. So yeah, I think the two guys at the top look to be the favourites at this stage.
if you keep hold of Kane and he gets a hat trick or two, you could be laughing, couldn't you?
You could.
Differential.
Yeah. Cool.
Leeds last game of the season, isn't it, for Tottenham?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. could be a maul in there.
Well, yeah, but it'd be like 5-5 because Spurs can't defend. Spurs will go 5-0 down in 30 minutes and draw 5-5.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, chaps. I think we'll wrap it up there. You can find us on Twitter at Dream Team Tonic. Thanks a lot for coming on, Fergie. And
no worries, guys. Thank you.
Call it a good night there, I think. Good night, chaps.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.